Boston Celtics figure out a way to win in Brooklyn. Jayson Tatum gets to 10,000 points. I'm going to talk about it right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-Team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. It's right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day, and I'm here for you Monday through Friday, and then on a Saturday, and then whatever day the Celtics play. Podcasts galore here on the Locked On Celtics podcast. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcast. The show is free. You're never going to have to pay for this show. So make sure you get it on whatever app you use. Watch the show on YouTube. Hop to the comment section. Let me know what you're thinking. I'm John Karalis. I played a long time ago. Now I cover the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. Today, we're talking about a 124-114 win over the Brooklyn Nets. I'm not going to talk about anything that goes, kind of makes me think here because I'm not feeling that on the bonus podcast. I'm doing things I liked, things I didn't like, and then we're out. So trust me, there's plenty to talk about. Let's start right away with the things that I liked, right? Let's start with the positive notes. Celtics win 124-114. It's a nice game to win. It's not all going to be pretty. It's not always going to be something that the Celtics are going to look great from start to finish. It looked like they might have had the opportunity to finish without another fourth quarter off for everybody. No, not the case. The Nets off the back-to-back, they were missing Nick Claxton, they were missing Ben Simmons, they were missing somebody else that is escaping me right now. But let's see, Cam Johnson. That's who they were missing. So it looked like, hey, they're super small. This is going to be like Washington all over again. Porzingis can go nuts, and Tatum can have some fun, and everybody's going to play their 28 minutes and sit down in the fourth quarter. No, they had to fight throughout this whole thing, and that's fine. The Brooklyn Nets fought hard. Give them credit. They fought hard. They took 100 shots. They took 52 three-pointers. They, in fact, made more three-pointers than the Celtics, even though the Celtics shot a little bit better. The Celtics didn't shoot particularly great. They made as many field goals as the Celtics. It's just Boston ended up drawing more fouls, getting to the line, and kind of being aggressive, taking advantage of the Brooklyn Nets there. And when you can get to the line at 23 of 27, that's a big deal. That's a nice place for the Celtics to be, attacking, drawing the fouls, all of that stuff, getting into the bonus, pumping up your free throw numbers by getting into the bonus. That's why you're supposed to do it. That's why we keep talking about guys who just, who can draw fouls, even if they're not the ones getting to the line. If somebody draws 3 fouls in a quarter and then sits down on the bench, but then all of a sudden the rest of the guys start to benefit from getting free throws, then you've done a great job. So whatever they needed to do, they did. It didn't always look great, but they finished each half strong. And that's important. Winning teams do that. We'll not go back in 2 months and look back at this and say, oh, well, this wasn't exactly the game that we thought it was going to be, and so we're going to take demerits here. No, they fought. They played tough, and they found out a way to win. And they got contributions from just about everybody. Even somebody like Peyton Pritchard, who was 0 for 4, had a couple of assists and some real clutch play as well. So I think everybody contributed. So let's start with that. The guy who contributed the most was Jayson Tatum. Oh, actually, you might argue that Al Horford contributed the most because he was a plus 29 in this game. A game the Celtics won by 10. Al Horford's a plus 29. He started in place of Derrick White. So that was Sorry, a little bit of a frog in my throat. Uh, why is it a frog? Aren't there other animals? Never mind. Uh, Al Horford was a plus 29 in 30 minutes. That's pretty damn good. That Al Horford was that impactful. But Jayson Tatum, 32 points, 11 rebounds, shot 50%, 10 of 20, shot 6 of 10 from 3, 6 of 6 from the line. Wonderful game. Just beautiful game from him. 32 points. In the middle of those 32 points, he scored his 10,000th point of his career, getting him, making him the youngest player in Boston Celtics history to get there. He did it a few games. It took him 5 more games than it took Larry Bird. But this is super interesting to me. Larry Bird, it took him less games and he didn't have the three-pointer. So Tatum has the benefit of the three-pointer to get him to that number. But he was 19 when he came in to the NBA, and Larry Bird was 23. So Bird had an advantage there. At 23, that's you're coming in as like a fully formed man, like 19 years old. Look at what Tatum looked like at 19 years old. He was skinny. He said it the other day. He's like, I was a baby. I was 200 pounds on a good day. Now he's like a solid 230, whatever he is. He's like a grown man. And so for him to basically, it was only a 5-game difference. Plus he had COVID in the middle of it. Plus he had other factors. Like, for him to be within 5 games of Larry Bird scoring wise, that's amazing to me, actually. And I'm a big proponent of history. And, I went in there looking like, okay, let me just see what Larry Bird did. And the fact that it was within 5 games, I'm like, look, if Tatum didn't have COVID and if he didn't have some other things, maybe he could have gotten there within those 5 games. So super impressed. And it's the most important and impressive part of this is that this is his absolute best year so far. This is, you can see within these performances, you can say, okay, I get where Tatum is as a player, as a a leader, as the team's best player. Like this is very obvious. I know in past seasons, especially because Tatum has been a notoriously slow starter, past seasons, we've had arguments like in December, like, hey, Jaylen Brown's actually been the better player. And, when it came to the All-Star, Jaylen Brown's actually, around the voting time, he's actually been more impactful. Like, that's been a thing the past couple of seasons. It's not a thing this season. And Jaylen in this game, side note, not a good shooting game. 7 of 22, 2 of 11. Tough shooting game for Jaylen. Not that big of a deal, though. I thought his passing was really, really good. 23 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Just a couple of turnovers for Jaylen. He did have a block, but some real nice passing and passes that won't show up in the box score. Not even hockey assists, not even like maybe potential assists, but that's it. Jaylen, I thought, didn't play particularly great as far as, he made a couple of bad decisions, but everybody made bad decisions in this game. Did not shoot well, but I thought as a passer, he did okay. But that aside, Tatum was very clearly and has very clearly been the best player. I think this is the season where Tatum very clearly separates himself from Jaylen Brown. Like, I think Jaylen might be close to his ceiling. I'm not going to say he's at it because he's still young enough where he can find another thing, and maybe that'll be this season. So I'm not going to say he's hit his ceiling. I'm not that stupid, but I feel like he's pretty close to where his ceiling might be. I think Tatum is just starting to reach that next level, and I think his ceiling is still higher. I think there's still more for him to find. So that's going to be when he hits that, I feel like that's going to be his MVP. And I think this is the beginning of true Tatum MVP level play. Like in the past, it was Tatum. Can Tatum get into the MVP discussion, which still makes him a really good player? But I think this year is where we get into Tatum could potentially actually be the MVP. And that's this year. And that's, for the few years moving forward. So the funny thing is that now, this is his 7th season. So it took him this long to get to 10,000, but he's now scoring over 2,000 points a season. So less than 5 years from now, and this is the beginning of the season. It's just game 5. So he's probably got another 2,000 points this year. And then 4 more seasons after that, he could hit 20,000 before he's 30, right? Because he's 25 now. He turns 26 in March. He might be able to get to that 20,000 before his actual 30th birthday, which would be amazing. Amazing. And then after that, he's got a little over 6,000 points to get to Havlicek and the number 1 scorer in Boston Celtics history. If he sticks around, and hey, it's the NBA in 2023 right now. I wouldn't expect, I just don't expect him to stick around, because I don't expect anybody to stick around, right? It's just, who knows what the NBA is going to do, but he could be 30 years old and they could decide to put an expansion team in St. Louis and he'd be like, love you, Boston, but I'm out. I'm going home, for all we know. So, side note, if you want to take that out of the equation, somehow find a way to oppose St. Louis as a potential landing spot for an NBA team. But Tatum, once again, great. And then, the Celtics had a 14-4 run in the 4th quarter to kind of put this away. And Tatum had 9 of those 14. So this is the MVP season for Tatum. So obviously I liked Tatum's game. I mentioned Al Horford. I loved Horford's game. Porzingis, this is great. Kristaps Porzingis was 8 of 10 in this game. He's having his absolute most efficient season. He's never shot better than 50% in his career for a single season. He's also never taken fewer than 12.3 shots per game. Well, this season he is now taking 10.6, so he's below that average, or below that number, and he's shooting 60.4%. So he's averaging 19.4 points per game, and his career average is 19.6. So he's not getting a ton of shots, and he's still right around his career average. So if he can pick up a couple of shots here or there and bump up, he could actually take fewer shots this year and average as much or more as he did last year. So when we're sitting there preseason talking about where do all these shots come from and who sacrifices, well, Porzingis might actually be able to sacrifice a couple of shots without losing anything besides a couple of shots. Everything else, he could have the most efficient season of his career right now. So Porzingis in this game was pretty good, especially early. 8 of 10, 22 points, 7 rebounds, 3 block shots. Just the nets were small, and the Celtics took advantage of it. He caught that one alley-oop from Jaylen Brown. Again, Brown's passing was spectacular, I thought. That straight-on alley-oop is so tough. It's so tough because you don't have like that depth. You could see when a guy is cutting baseline or down the wing, you have a spot depending on where you are. But if you're on the top of the key towards the left side, let's say somebody coming down the right side, you could put the ball at a spot that's about a foot or so, foot and a half off to the right side of the rim. You're not throwing it at the rim. You're throwing off to the side of the rim because the person's coming in from the side, and their momentum, they're going to catch it, and their momentum carries them the rest of the way. So there's a misconception that the alley-oop has to be up near the rim. It goes, actually, people say you aim for the bottom corner, depending on your angle. You aim for the bottom corner of the backboard. And if you put it there, the person who's jumping kind of jumps into it, catches it on the way up, and finishes. But on that straightaway, you have to put it in a spot like the rim is right there. You have to put it in the right spot. The guy has to trust you a lot because he's looking at you while running towards the rim. He's got to catch it and then turn and finish. Like, you are guiding him. You are making sure there's nobody in his way. You are really, that's a difficult pass to make. Jaylen threw it perfectly. That was a great play. So great from them. Drew Holiday was spectacular in this. 1 rebound shy of a triple-double. I can't believe it's in 15 minutes. And I've only just started talking about Drew Holiday. 18 points, 10 assists, 9 rebounds. Just an amazing game. And he just found his way to making big shots whenever the Celtics needed him to make big shots. He was just, this is exactly why you get him. You not only have the defensive prowess, and he had another block in this game, he ends up with 9 rebounds, 4 offensive rebounds to keep possessions alive. The 18 points is, he's out there keeping the defense honest. Some of it, there is some shot selection where if he wasn't Drew Holiday, if he wasn't able to make some of these other shots that he makes, he gets the pass on some of the early shots. And I know I talked about early offense on this podcast before, but he takes some shots, man. He's one of the pull-up masters on this team. Holiday was huge. He was huge. There's a reason why he played 40 minutes in this game. He made up for the loss of Derrick White. Again, Derrick White out, personal reasons. I think it's a family. I think he's going to be, I think dad twice over. I think that's the case. Don't know for sure, but hopefully we're talking about this and Derrick White is somewhere holding his newborn baby and everybody's happy. That's what I hope is happening. But I don't know because they don't say anything. The bench had its moments. Luke Cornette, a lot of people have been saying, sit Luke down. I saw a tweet, got to get Luke out of there. And then he immediately hits like two buckets. One nice cut right down the middle of the floor in transition, gets right to the front of the rim. Holiday, bang, right there in the middle, and forcing the other team, forcing Brooklyn to call a timeout. I thought Cornette, this was his best game of the season, of the preseason, of anything that we've seen on television this year. It was very important that he come through, and in 15 minutes, he was a perfect 5 of 5, 7.7 rebounds, a steal. That's a clutch performance from Luke Cornette. Caught a couple of alley-oops. This is the exact Luke Cornette that we're hoping for when we're talking about backup centers. So he helped that bench. The Celtics needed that bench. They needed everybody. The Nets ran like crazy. They shot a bunch of threes, like I said before. They kept themselves in the game. They turned the Celtics over. They just were kind of hanging around. And I feel like the bench came in and just calmed things down just enough in each half to keep things in check, right? To hold a lead or to prevent the lead from getting a Nets lead from getting too out of control. So that was all the bench guys. Shout out to all the bench guys. What else did I like in this? I think that might be everything. I'm just looking through my notes that I liked. Let's just a minor thing that I didn't like. 41 minutes for Jayson Tatum. A little over 40 minutes for Holiday. I just am programmed. I don't like seeing 40-minute anything in November, but at the same time, I'm going to contradict myself and say they just played 2 games where they didn't play in fourth quarters, and it was like 20 some odd minutes for everybody, 26, 27 minutes. So one pop off 40-minute performance is actually not bad. In fact, one might argue that getting him the one big minute game kind of helps keep his cardio up. So fine. Not a big deal, but just because I don't like it doesn't mean that it's not like doesn't have some merit. I get it. They wanted to win this game. They had it. So you don't want to blow it. But in general, I don't like 41 minutes. I don't like anybody playing 41 minutes in an early November game. So leave it at that. Done. Moving on. Also, didn't like how much the Celtics kind of, I don't want to say relaxed. I'll say let down. Their defense wasn't particularly great for stretches. It was fine for stretches. Every number here looks decent, except for the 114 points and the fact that they gave up 100 field goal attempts. That doesn't make Joe Mazzulla happy. But this is what the Nets are. They run, they pile up the field goal attempts, they pile up the 3-point attempts. They shot 52. These teams combined for 97 field goal attempts. 3-point field goal attempts. 190 field goal attempts, 97 of them were from three. That's a lot of 3-pointers. And they were just pulling indiscriminately. There's a point here where it's just like pull-up jumper after pull-up jumper. But that's what they do. But I think the Celtics, I don't know, is let down the right word? Is it relaxed? Did they relax too much? Did they didn't play particularly great. Now, after the game, Joe Mazzulla said the effort was there. The effort was there, even though the execution wasn't. And maybe that's semantics. I like to say that, like, if defensive execution isn't there, that's got to be effort based to some degree. Like, if you're really trying on defense, you're really like locked in, focused. But I don't know. Celtics were not. But that's fine. That's fine. I'm not going to harp too much on that. That's why I saved it to the end, and I'm not really spending too much time on it because ultimately this goes down as a good win, a positive test. Without Derrick White, I feel like his impact was noticeable. I feel like the Celtics need to win, to figure out how to win these games where they're not playing particularly great. They're not always going to play great. They're going to play poorly. And if you can play poorly and win, then that's good. That's a sign of a good team. Good teams win games where they kind of play crappy. And I'm not going to say the Celtics played crappy, but they did turn the ball turn the ball over a little too much. They did foul, I think, a little too much. There was a stretch there where it was just like all over the place, foul after foul after foul. But they figured it out. At the end of each half, they went on runs. They closed out the second quarter. They closed out the fourth quarter. And that's what championship teams do. They close it out down the stretch. And so good win for the Celtics. 5th straight win for the Celtics. The only undefeated team left in the league. And now they're off to Minnesota. Monday night in Minnesota. Monday night is an NBA belt title match. If you don't know what the NBA belt is, follow me on Twitter at John_Karalis. But basically, each season, the champion comes in with what I call the NBA belt. I didn't make it up. Someone else made it up somewhere. I am just now the caretaker, self-appointed caretaker. I'm not the only one on the web that does it, but I'm probably the most prominent one on Twitter that does it. So I'm happy to take this mantle. I've been doing it for a few years. Denver Nuggets came in with the NBA belt. Each night, it's fictional, but each night you play and defend it like a boxing match or a wrestling match or a UFC match. So the Nuggets won 4 straight games, I think it was, and then they lost to the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Minnesota Timberwolves then became the NBA belt champions. You defend it, like I said, like anything else. So then they played Utah, they beat Utah, and now they play Boston. Boston now has a chance to get the NBA belt. So I love it. I love this thing. That's why I keep doing it. I think it's great. I think it's better than the in-season tournament. I think it's better than that. I think the NBA should latch onto it. The NBA belt. Give a belt, create an actual championship belt that goes with from team to team and sits there at the scorer's table. And when you win or lose, the captain or your best player gets to grab the belt and throw it over his shoulder and be like, ha ha, here's my NBA belt. I love that. I would love to see it. I think that would be fun. Imagine going to a random game, if you didn't realize all of a sudden there's a championship belt there and the winner gets to take that belt. It's beautiful. We can build this out. It can be fun. You can sponsor the belt. Could be the whatever, company, like some company could put their name on the belt, create the belt, make it big. And then at the end of the year, whoever holds it last gets like a party, an edible arrangement. By the way, they call that edible now? Are they really trying to call those things edibles? Like that's not a marijuana thing? Anyway, it's like late. It's 3 a.m. I got to stop talking. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed this bonus podcast. If you're still here, please subscribe if you have not. If you are on the YouTube page, I'd love to have you on the YouTube page. Subscribe to two things. Subscribe to the audio, subscribe to the YouTube. Pop on and watch every once in a while. Would love to see that. I would love it if you spread the word. I'd love it if you shared the podcast. Tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast. It's right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.